In 1982, a copper mine in Globe, Arizona, accidentally uncovered one of the most prized gemstone deposits in American history. The miners weren't looking for it. They weren't gemologists. They were digging for copper. But hidden inside the walls of that mine was a turquoise so pure, so perfectly sky blue, with absolutely zero matrix running through it, that jewelers around the world would eventually call it the finest turquoise ever found. And then, in 2012, they closed it forever. What they left behind, and why it still matters today, is a story most turquoise buyers have never heard. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what made Sleeping Beauty turquoise so extraordinary, why the mine closed and what that means for prices today, how to tell genuine Sleeping Beauty from the imitations flooding the market right now, and why Native American silversmiths fell in love with this specific stone above almost every other. This is the kind of knowledge that changes how you shop, how you collect, and how you appreciate every single piece of turquoise jewelry you'll ever own. Stay with me, because the history of this stone is something else entirely. The Sleeping Beauty mine sits in the Pinal Mountains outside Globe, Arizona, a rugged stretch of high desert that has been mined for copper since the 1800s. The mine itself is named after the mountain ridge above it. If you stand back and look at the silhouette of that ridge against the Arizona sky, you can see it. A woman lying on her back, arms folded, eyes closed. Sleeping Beauty. That image alone tells you something about this land. It's ancient, it's storied, and people have been paying attention to it for a very long time. The mine was operated by a company called the Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Mine. And at its peak, it was producing some of the most consistent, high-quality turquoise in the entire world. Now here's the thing most people don't know. Turquoise forms in arid, copper-rich environments, and the chemistry of the ground in that part of Arizona created something almost chemically perfect. The stone that came out of Sleeping Beauty had what gemologists call a robin's egg blue color. A cool, clear, medium blue with almost no green in it at all. Most turquoise has brown or black matrix running through it in veins and swirls. Sleeping Beauty was different. It came out clean, pure, almost like a polished blue sky. That rarity, that sky blue clarity, is what put it on the map. But it wasn't just the color, it was the consistency. Mine after mine across the Southwest produces stones that vary wildly from one pocket to the next. Sleeping Beauty was remarkably uniform, which made it a jeweler's dream. You could design a necklace knowing the stones would actually match. That's rarer than most people realize, and it matters more than most buyers ever think to ask about. Native American silversmiths, particularly Navajo and Zuni artisans, recognized something special in Sleeping Beauty turquoise almost immediately. And that relationship between this stone and indigenous jewelry-making traditions deserves its own conversation, because it's beautiful and it runs deep. The Navajo Nation covers parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, land that has been home to Dine people for centuries. Turquoise holds a sacred place in Navajo culture. It represents the sky, water, protection, and connection to the natural world. When Navajo silversmiths began working with sterling silver in the mid-1800s, a craft they learned partly through contact with Mexican plateros, they needed stones that complemented the bold, geometric designs they were creating. Sleeping Beauty turquoise was almost made for it. That clean blue pops against sterling silver in a way that brown matrix stones simply don't. Zuni artisans known for their intricate inlay work and channel work were equally drawn to it. When you're cutting tiny pieces of stone to fit together like a mosaic, you need material that's consistent and workable. Sleeping Beauty delivered. What's remarkable is that this relationship between mine and maker created an entire aesthetic that people now associate with authentic American Southwest jewelry. When most people picture Native American turquoise jewelry, there's a good chance the stone they're picturing in their mind is Sleeping Beauty blue. That's how dominant this one deposit became in shaping the visual language of an entire tradition. And the artists who worked with it, people like the master silversmiths of the Gallup, New Mexico trading scene, or the Zuni Pueblo artisans, they didn't just use it as a material, they chose it because it meant something. That history is baked into every stone. Now let's talk about 2012, because that year changed the turquoise market in ways we are still feeling today. The owners of the Sleeping Beauty mine made a business decision that had nothing to do with gemstones. Copper prices were rising. Turquoise mining was becoming less profitable relative to the copper operation. And so they made the call. Turquoise production stopped. The mine shifted its focus entirely to copper extraction. No more gemstone-grade turquoise. No more of that perfect robin's egg blue coming out of the ground. Just like that, one of the world's most celebrated turquoise deposits went silent. The effect on the market was almost immediate. Prices for genuine Sleeping Beauty turquoise began climbing. Collectors who understood what had happened started buying and holding. Jewelers who had built their entire design aesthetic around that particular shade of blue suddenly had to rethink their sourcing. And into that vacuum, predictably, came the imitators. This is where buyers need to pay close attention. When a beloved material becomes scarce, fakes and substitutes flood the market. With Sleeping Beauty specifically, you started seeing dyed howlite sold under misleading descriptions. You saw lower-grade turquoise stabilized and treated to mimic that clean blue color. You saw Chinese turquoise, which can actually be beautiful in its own right, being misrepresented as American-mined Sleeping Beauty. The closure of the mine didn't just create scarcity, it created an opportunity for deception. And the buyers who don't know this history are the ones who get taken advantage of. Knowing the story of the mine is literally financial self-defense when you're shopping for turquoise jewelry. So how do you identify genuine Sleeping Beauty turquoise, and what should you actually look for when you're buying? Let's break it down practically, because this is where the education becomes real money in your pocket. Authentic Sleeping Beauty has a very specific color profile. Cool, medium blue, leaning toward robin's egg or sky blue, rather than teal or aqua. It typically has little to no matrix. When you do see matrix, it tends to be very fine and light. The surface should have a waxy, smooth luster when polished. It shouldn't look glassy like glass or plastic. It should look like a stone. Now, there are 3 grades of genuine turquoise on the market: natural, stabilized, and treated. Natural turquoise is untouched after mining and polishing. It's the most valuable. Stabilized turquoise has been injected with resin to harden softer material. This is legitimate and widely accepted in the jewelry industry, but it should be disclosed. Treated turquoise has had color enhanced, and that disclosure is also required under FTC guidelines. A reputable seller will always tell you which you're getting. If they don't tell you and you don't ask, that's a problem. When you're buying a piece of jewelry set with what's described as Sleeping Beauty turquoise, ask the seller where they source their stone. A good dealer knows their supply chain. They can tell you whether the stone came from old stock mined before 2012, or whether they're sourcing through a reputable gem dealer with documented provenance. At Turquoise Traders Direct, we source our stones carefully, and we can answer those questions, because we believe that knowing your stone is part of owning it. The last thing I'll say on this: price matters. Genuine, high-quality Sleeping Beauty turquoise is not cheap anymore. If a price seems too good to be true in today's market, it almost certainly is. Trust the knowledge, not just the color. Here's what we covered today. The Sleeping Beauty mine in Globe, Arizona, produced some of the world's most consistently beautiful turquoise, a clean sky blue stone that became the foundation of an entire Southwest jewelry tradition. Native American silversmiths, particularly Navajo and Zuni artisans, built a deep artistic relationship with this stone. The mine closed in 2012, making genuine Sleeping Beauty increasingly rare and valuable. And knowing that history protects you from the fakes and misrepresentations that flooded the market after the closure. At Turquoise Traders Direct, this is exactly the kind of knowledge we built our business on. We carry genuine turquoise, authentic Native American sterling silver jewelry, and we will always tell you the story behind every stone. Check out our store. The link is in the description. If you want to keep going deeper on turquoise education, mines, stones, artists, history, hit subscribe right now, because we cover all of it. And drop a question in the comments. What do you want to know next? We read every single one.